Okay, we're going to continue on in our Father's Word today. This is Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 6. For the Lord thy God blesseth thee, as he promised thee, and thou shalt lend unto many nations, but thou shalt not borrow, and thou shalt reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over thee. If there be among you a poor man of one of thy brethren within any of thy gates in thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not harden thy heart, nor shut thy hand from thy poor brother, but thou shalt open thine hand wide unto him, and shalt surely lend him sufficient for his need, and that which he wanteth. Beware that there be not a thought in thy wicked heart, saying, the seventh year, the year of release, is at hand, and thine eye be evil against thy poor brother, and thou givest him naught, and he cry unto the Lord against thee, and it be sin unto thee. Thou shalt surely give him, and thine heart shall not be grieved when thou givest unto him, because that for this thing the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all thy works, and all thou puttest thine hand unto. For the poor shall never cease out of the land. Therefore I command thee, saying, thou shalt open thy hand wide unto thy brother, to the poor, and to thy needy, and in thy land. And if thy brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the seventh year thou shalt set him free from thee. When thou sendest him out free from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty. Thou shalt furnish him liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy wine presses, of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, thou shalt give unto him. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondsman in the land of Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemed thee. Therefore I command thee this thing today, and it shall be that he shall say unto thee, I will not go away from thee, because he loveth thee in thine house, and because he is well with thee. Then thou shalt take an awl, and thrust it through his ear into the door, and he shall be thy servant forever. And also unto thy maidservant thou shalt do likewise. It shall not seem hard unto thee when thou sendest him away from thee, for he hath been worth a double hired servant to thee, and serving thee 6 years. And the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all thou doest. All the firstling males that come of thy herd and of thy flock thou shalt sanctify unto the Lord thy God. Thou shalt do no work with the firstling of thy bullock, nor shear the firstling of thy sheep. Thou shalt eat it before the Lord thy God year by year, in the place which the Lord shall choose, thou and thy household. And if there be any blemish therein, as it be lame or blind, or have any ill blemish, thou shalt not sacrifice it unto the Lord thy God. Thou shalt eat it within thy gates. The unclean and the clean person shall eat it alike, as the roebuck and as the hart. Only thou shalt not eat the blood thereof. Thou shalt pour it upon the ground as water. And this is Deuteronomy chapter 16. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. 15 days after the spring equinox, normally on March the 21st, Passover day. And in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. Thou shalt therefore sacrifice the Passover unto the Lord thy God of the flock and of the herd, in the place which the Lord shall choose to place his name there. Thou shalt eat no leavened bread. That's bread that's risen with the yeast in it. It's the feast of unleavened bread, Passover. Thou shalt eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. For thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that thou mayest remember the day when thou comest forth out of the land of Egypt, all the days of thy life. And there will be no leavened bread seen with thee in all thy coast 7 days. Neither shall there at any time anything of the flesh, which shall sacrifice the first day at even, remain all night until the morning. Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover. Excuse me. Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee. But at the place which the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name in, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun, at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt. And thou shalt roast and eat it in the place where the Lord thy God shall choose. And thou shalt turn in the morning, and go into thy tents. 6 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread. And on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly to the Lord thy God, and thou shalt do no work therein. 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. And thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto the Lord thy God with the tribute of a freewill offering of thy hand, which thou shalt give unto the Lord thy God, according to the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. Now that's 50 days after the Passover, the Festival of Weeks. Now it's called Pentecost. Jesus was here with us for 40 days, and then he rose to be at the right hand of our Father. 10 days later, God sent us the Holy Spirit. Pentecost. 50 days. Penta means 50. Kos means days in the Hebrew. 50th day after the Passover is Pentecost, and which thou shalt give unto the Lord thy God, according as the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. And thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God, thou and thy son and thy daughter, and thy maidservant and thy manservant, and the Levite that is within thy gates, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are among you, in the place which the Lord thy God has chosen to place his name there. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondsman in Egypt, and thou shalt observe and do these statutes. Thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days, the fall time fellowship. And after that, thou hast gathered in thy corn and thy wine. September the 29th, the birth of Jesus Christ. 9 months after December the 25th. The birth of Jesus, and then the birth of John the Baptist. 8th course of the Bayou tells us the conception date of John the Baptist. John the Baptist was 6 months older than Jesus. He was born 6 months before Jesus on Passover day. And thou shalt rejoice in thy feast, thou and thy son and thy daughter, and thy manservant, and thy maidservant, and the Levite, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are within thy gates. 7 days that thou shalt keep a solemn feast unto the Lord thy God, in the place which the Lord shall choose, because the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all thine increase, and in all the works of thine hands. Therefore thou shalt surely rejoice. 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of the tabernacles. Sukkot. Sukkot means booth. Those booths that the Hebrew children lived in for 40 years out in the desert. That's what